Hello.
Good evening, Anthony, and good evening, Graham, as we
Hi, Charles.
continue uh, with briskness as opposed to last week's very in-depth analysis of the albums of the year. We're continuing our retrospective this evening. Well, first of all, probably interruption before we do anything else. What would you like to
Yeah,
interrupt about?
well, first of all, we got to say hello to our new listeners on Harrogate Community Radio
Good point.
who, who,
Yes.
who've just joined us thanks to the amazing efforts of this volunteer-led, donation-led, totally independent community radio station in Harrogate, which has been going for 4 years and has got an amazing array of music and spoken word programs
Mm.
already. Really top quality, all completely local and all eclectic, interesting stuff. So it's really great that Harrogate Community Radio is actually.
Yeah, let's thank them. Graham, it suddenly struck me, introduced ourselves for a while to listeners. Who are you?
Graham Chalmers, Harrogate Advertiser, long-time ex-Hull Daily Mail, ex-Bradford Telephone Argus, and also ex-Harrogate Fringe Director and Char Magazine editor and gig organizer, etc., etc., etc. How about
Summed
you?
up beautifully there. I'm Charles Hutchinson, and well, how do I describe myself these days? Well, I'm freelance these days, but I still contribute to the York Press newspaper, my long-time former employers. I run the Charles Hutch Press website covering the arts scene across. Primarily, obviously, York is the focus, but also North Yorkshire and West Yorkshire too. And you'll find that is up and running regularly. Currently doing the pantomime season. And of course, Graham and I get together every Sunday to host Two Big Egos in a small car.
Yeah, but Charles, you are the arts critic of Yorkshire as a whole. There is nobody in Yorkshire who goes to as many shows across Yorkshire on a regular basis and has done for like 35 years than you. So you're
You're
underplaying
very
yourself a
kind to
little
say
bit.
so. I have cut back a little. I was chatting only the other day with Liz
Only a
Coggins,
little.
who's she's outdoing me on the number of pantomimes that she's going by considerably. So
Well, there's more
but
to
never. I
life than
think maybe
pantos.
the spread of shows I go to perhaps is wide. I think that would be fair to say. It's not just theatre, but obviously I take in comedy and I take in concerts as well, and
Yeah,
art
and they all
exhibitions.
know you.
Yeah.
They all know you. Alan Ayckbourn knows you. Ian McMillan knows you. The whole art scene knows who you are. So,
I don't want to blow my own trumpet
well,
on
that's
that,
why
Graham.
I'm
But
blowing it for you.
well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, Graham, let's perhaps shall we start with our films of the year, and we're going to do this more briskly than last week,
You certainly
um,
are.
leading to our number one film. First, Graham, I know a thing about what you're going to say here, so this is going to
Yeah,
be
well,
interesting to hear.
I can't include Maestro because I haven't seen it because it's scarcely been released and it is going to appear on streaming services more than in the big screen. I haven't
Yes.
seen Zone of Interest by Jonathan Glazer, which I'm really looking forward to because again, same issue. Sofia Coppola's film. I missed The Killer, David Fincher's film. It's actually getting very hard to see interesting films because they get such a small release, partly because they're usually funded by streaming channels. So the films I did see, I'm not going to vote for Mission Impossible, which was the worst Mission Impossible film so far. I'm not going to vote for Asteroid City by Wes Anderson because even though I love Wes Anderson, it was by his standards a mere trifle. Not as bad as some of his other mere trifles, but still trifling.
Yeah, it's not.
I
I've not
did
seen
like
it appear in any film lists at all. Telling.
it was that's going to be number five because it's a great film, but it's too bleak. May December, or actually May December, no two, by Todd Haynes, a really dark comedy, so dark that I didn't spot all the layers. So that's number four. Number three is a film I criticised back in February. Field Star, starring Kate Blanchett as the slightly demented uh, female conductor of Leaders. Number two, Past Lives, that Edinburgh Film Festival, but apart from the ending, not to give anything away. And number one, because this is a film which made loads of money at the box office and has got great acting and has got a script forever. And it deals with a really serious subject in a way which is
Barbie,
not stupid,
Barbie,
but it
Barbie.
is watchable. Yeah, you got it. You got it in one. I love Barbie. No, I didn't see Barbie. Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer's a major achievement to take such a great film and commercially successful with great performances by Cillian Murphy in particular. I just thought it was ticked all the boxes. What
Yeah,
about you?
I can understand that. So I've gone Oppenheimer at 5. I think so. And if we talk about the film event of the year, it was that bizarre thing of Oppenheimer versus Barbie, with some people seeing the two films in one day, two films that could not have been more contrasting. One that was very much a macho, masculine world, versus Barbie, which was emasculating men, which I think was an important thing to do in many ways. So it was interesting to have that contrast between the two, and it wasn't pink and fluffy, wasn't Barbie. So as a best cinema, that obviously was the talking point, I think, of the year. I put at number 4 a film that Anatomy of a Fall, which is the
Oh yeah.
Justine Triet's psycho thriller, in which an author played by the actress Sandra Huller in a French film in which she speaking in English because that's the language that she is most confident of talking in. That Anatomy of a Fall, a court case psycho thriller, and I thought that was beautifully put together. It kept turning in ways. I mean, you could argue that, well, you could perhaps see ultimately the end that was coming within it. I didn't go along with that. Even at the end, I had to check with Celestine as to whether innocent or guilty. And as usual, Celestine managed to point out, Charles, you're just not quick enough on these things. But I love that piece. Now, number 3 is technically not a 2022 film, but it drew attention because of the tragic death of Sinead O'Connor. God bless you, Sinead. And this is called Nothing Compares, which is it's a documentary made by the Irish filmmaker Catherine Ferguson, and it's looking really, if you like, at the peak years of Sinead, how brave she was, how defiant she was, and the extraordinary experience that she went through as a young woman, having to deal with fame and taking on the world, the conventions, right from the moment that when she was told, no, you have to get rid of that when you're pregnant. No, you must get rid of the child.
Yeah, you're
Extraordinary.
right.
And that
I
thing of
remember when she's big in the late 80s, early 90s, and she became more and more provocative and
yes.
outspoken. I remember the time, and I'm fairly liberal, thinking, wow, she's gone way too far. But when you see footage of what she was saying at the point that I thought she was going way too far, she now looks 100% right, and I feel like an idiot for having questioned what she was saying. Everything she said was completely right.
And I think that's why Catherine Ferguson was so keen to make this film, and obviously it's got resonance anew. And so I really would recommend seeing that documentary called Nothing Compares. You've touched on Past Lives. You and I saw it in Edinburgh. We felt it was the standout film what we saw there. And then I went not long afterwards to see it again with Celestine. This is, as it turns out, is actually the debut directorial feature by Celine Song, semi-autobiographical. The story of the childhood friends from Seoul, South Korea, one of whom played by Greta Lee, who goes to New York City, develops a career as a very literate writer and academic, and her childhood friend, played by Teo Yoo, from Seoul, South Korea, and they meet up again. Initially, they meet up online, and then they meet in person 24 years down the line. It's a beautifully, and not to say it reminds me of Brief Encounter, might seem odd, but it's a love story that doesn't end in the way that you might wish it to end, but actually feels right because they judge the two characters so beautifully in that moment at the film where in some ways you think, oh, they must get together again.
I think that's totally wrong. I think the whole premise of the film, whereas the end of Brief Encounter I saw again recently.
Yes,
I didn't feel disappointed by the rest of the film. I thought it was completely right for the level. I thought the ending of Lives, a film which is so perfectly pitched in terms of tone and intelligence and characterizations, and so efficiently done, and then the end is so realistic and so brutal. Yes. I just thought, what was the point in this whole semi-relationship and this whole movie if it was going to end like that? Whereas Brief Encounter, the ending, which is just as disappointing in some ways, made complete sense. I didn't think the ending made any sense unless the director was saying that in real life
Yeah.
people are cynical.
Yeah.
which of
Which
course
I think
they
was,
can be.
but I think
But,
that was, I mean, I will be at odds with you on that because I actually think, I think it did reflect her character. It was the essential difference between the two of them. So my film of the year, Graham, which you put at number 5, is Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin Scorsese. This is a year in which potentially we've said goodbye to. Well, Michael Caine has already confirmed his retirement from filmmaking with his last film made with Glenda Jackson, which again I would urge people to see. And then also potentially Ken Loach's last film, The Old Oak, which is very much a typical Ken Loach film, but then no one else is making films like him, the passionately socialist filmmaking that is important to make. But the great American filmmaker of the last, I mean, this is such a long career that Scorsese has had. And I think, I mean, you meant out that it's too bleak. I'm not the happiest of people, really, am I? I mean, I tend to be a glass half empty man. I think that it is utterly bleak, but it is not an apologia of a film for violence in earlier filmmaking, but it is a film that I think reflects on attitudes change that should change in America that may not have changed, but he is changing in relation to
I
the ethnic
yeah,
communities, the native, in this case, the Native American community, but also within that, and it's an extremely long film, but it has remarkable performance by Leonardo DiCaprio, and you have to say that De Niro is on top form too. So you have, in the great tradition of filmmaking, stellar lead performances. Lily Gladstone playing Molly Burkhart. But I think
you're
it's a
right. Yeah,
fantastic piece of filmmaking.
it's
And
a
bleak,
great film.
yes,
It's
but
very, yeah, yeah. It's very powerful, and it's a great film. And it's as bleak as Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood, if not
yes,
bleaker.
yeah,
And for a man of his age, because I think he's 80 now, Scorsese,
yeah,
it doesn't feel like a film made by an old man. It's
no.
still very dynamic. So you're right. It is a great film. I just think it's so bleak. It makes Taxi Driver look like a comedy, which Taxi Driver, if you look at it in a certain way, is a bit of a comedy. But it's so dark, and I think it's a bit like Spike Lee's Black Klansman. It's in the past, but it's really about America now.
Yes.
So it's relevant as well.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that, I mean, that is, I mean, that is not alone in filmmaking where that happens. We always look through, we refract a movie through our 21st century eyes, even if it's set in the past. And often filmmakers are making a comment on now through how they show the past. Don't actually think that was the case in Napoleon, which I latterly decided was probably my most disappointing film of the year.
I haven't seen Napoleon. What was wrong with Napoleon?
Too much war, too much
Too
war,
much,
not enough jaw
too much
jaw.
war. Yeah, so too much action, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yes, and I mean also it just reminded you of the futility of war. I mean,
Mm.
he overall his campaigns were responsible for 3 million people being dead, and there comes a point. I just think we're living in a world where we're blinded by this, and we're sick of it. We're sick of it with Russia versus Ukraine. We're sick of it with what's going on, and we're shocked and disgusted and alarmed by what and Hamas and the Gaza Strip. And so when one sees, again, we are reminded of the futility of war from the past. If
Yeah,
I dislike it if I dislike it as a film, it probably is because I just dislike war.
yeah.
And
Well,
I'm
yeah,
perhaps therefore I'm
yeah.
unfairly
But
judging it, but I just got bored with yet another
but
war scene, yet
so
another war
would you
scene.
have done? Would you have done Napoleon as a sort of light comedy with musical numbers?
I think that's what Mel Brooks would have done it with it, and I think it might have had a lot more fun with it.
Actually, that would have been great. Mel Brooks would been funny.
I mean, I do think there was a sense of the film sending up somewhat what we think about Napoleon, the British think
Mm.
about Napoleon. Of course, Napoleon claims to have won the Battle of Waterloo, doesn't he? Which is very interesting. According to the French, he won the Battle of Waterloo. But
Well,
it
yeah,
has the
it depends how you
feel of a
spin the
film.
narrative.
Yeah,
I mean,
it ha-
the British Army didn't win it because it was won by
no,
the Prussians and
it was
Belgians, and the British were
yeah, it
involved.
was the Prussians who
Yeah.
came to do
Mm.
the most damage and inflict the defeat. But so I found it just a disappointing film overall. It's also I mean I enjoy Joaquin Phoenix normally, but I just an actor. I'm watching an American actor. I'm watching an American actor.
I know what you mean. Yeah, yeah. I would have
So
struggled thinking of him
so that
as a
is
great
why it
Frenchman.
ain't anywhere near my top 5.
All right, that's fair enough. Mm, we can go with that.
So Graham, time for an interruption before we do our TV shows of the year.
quick bit of maths, because Spotify, which is planning next year to take away a lot of the streaming for lesser known artists, i.e., most artists.
Yes.
Spotify in general, every time a track's streamed, the artist themselves gets about 0.003 of a pound, i.e., like less than 1 pence per stream. This is why it's quite hard for medium or lower, smaller sized musical acts to make it. So if you get billions of streams, you will, like Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran, you will make a lot of money. But say the Corals' latest album, Sea of Mirrors, say it sold as many 1,000 copies as CDs or vinyl, which it hasn't. It's probably 50,000, I guess.
Yeah.
But just say in the old days it sold 200,000, which online means nothing, by the way. But in the old days of vinyl and CDs, 200,000 was a lot. Well, if the Coral had sold 200,000 copies of their latest album, Sea of Mirrors, and had been paid 0.003 per copy sold, guess how much money they would have made out of the album as a band by the usual standards of the industry? £600. They would have got £600 for selling 200,000 copies.
That is extraordinary.
So you have to. This is why, unless you're mega big, streaming is rubbish for acts. And Spotify is planning to make it worse next year as well.
So when it comes to streaming, which brings us to our TV shows of the year, Christine has Netflix, and we used to sort of tag on to other people's Netflix for a while. But that is of the streaming services, nearly all of the other ones. Peacock TV, so no, I haven't seen Poker Face.
Yep.
HBO, no, so I haven't seen Succession or The Last of Us. So I tend to stick largely still, although there are some Netflix ones that are in my list. But I largely stick with the conventional stations as if the current world of TV viewing, which is so spread out now. But it's interesting, the sort of reviews of the year all make assumptions that we've all got these streaming services. Well, no, a lot of us still haven't got all these services. So
that will eventually change, sadly.
Yeah, I'm going to start with actually just things that I love watching as much now as I've ever loved.
So what's number 5?
So Have I is still in there.
My God,
and would I like to consistently funny shows in the case of both of them, but in the case of Have I Got News for You, Hislop in particular, and Paul Merton, and whoever's the guest presenter, it's the one show that is still cheeky enough to be doing what we need, which is taking the mick out of government and both sides of government. And in some ways, have they just said that, which is what I want to still be having on television?
Yeah, but it's so rare now. Where they eviscerated Boris Johnson during Partygate.
Yeah.
Or it might have been when he lost the vote in the Commons, whatever. And they absolutely humiliated him. Not, of course, that Boris cared.
No, but I love the fact that is still there on what is seen as, quotes, the national, the nation's broadcaster. Would I lie to you? Just consistently brilliant performances by Lee Mack and David Mitchell. The speed of Lee Mack, David Mitchell being such a sort of stuffed shirt, and then Rob Brydon, who's the perfect host. I think it works beautifully, that program still. So I've just enjoyed them as ever, as much this year.
Number 4.
Sex Education, the last series of that, in which Gillian Anderson is worth the entrance fee alone.
Is that a documentary?
It is not a documentary.
Okay.
No, Graham. Right. It's not that kind of sex education. I just love the characters within it. I think it's a series that maybe has now reached as far as it can go. Still, this latest series that was as enjoyable as ever. Then so I do have one more Netflix one, which was called Beef. Now you probably won't have seen that.
I've heard of that. Yeah. Is that set in a kitchen?
It is not set in a kitchen. Whereas Boiling Point, I thought the Boiling Point film was better than the Boiling Point TV series. So basically this Netflix story, it was very much actually a kind of underground hit at first. It grew. It was one that bubbled away. Success it became. Stars Ali Wong and Stephen Yeun. He's Danny Chow. He's kind of vindictive character. She is imperious, and who meet through a moment of road rage, and it leads them to clashing throughout the series across Southern California. It's a character study, basically, but wrapped inside a drama with bucket loads of humor in it. I absolutely loved it. So,
That's good.
of course, we're not having Netflix, you won't see it, but nevertheless, even if allowing for those who do have streaming, it stood out. And then the second choice was the sixth. Actually, no, second choice. I'll go with Blue Lights, which was the
Oh,
Belfast police
fantastic! Yeah.
drama, which was three new recruits joining the police service of Northern Ireland, still with the legacy of the Troubles. And it had at the heart of it one of those performances by Richard Dormer that snuck up on you. And I won't spoil it for anyone who still hasn't seen it, but you can catch it
No,
on
no,
iPlayer.
you don't.
I just thought I love dramas anyway. Police dramas are absolutely at the heart. This managed to find a fresh angle, and Richard Dormer's performance was, come the finale to his performance, absolutely devastating. And then the program I think
Well,
that I thought was most
all the characters are brilliantly played, but
yes.
the thing about Blue Lights,
Yes.
is Banier, and it's absolutely brilliant. But there's now so many Irish-based crime dramas and crime
Yes.
series. It's almost like the Italian mafia. It's become a big theme.
Yeah. Now my because I didn't see The Long Shadow, which everyone has read about, and I didn't see the Jimmy Savile one starring Steve Coogan. So what I did see, if you like, in that form of drama based on reality, was The Sixth Commandment, the four-part drama made by Sarah
good, yeah.
Phelps, starring it was starring Tim Spall as the teacher Peter Farquhar, and then Anne Reid as Anne Moore Marion, I think the name was. And so the story is it's a very deceptive young man who ends up well, just destroying in every way possible their two lives.
It's like a sort of like cuckoo and a cuckold who also gaslights elderly people into like falling in love with them. Then he'll kill them and steals the money. And it's based on a true story.
Absolutely. I thought it was brilliantly played all round, including obviously the actor playing the person who's ended up serving Major's displeasure. And it was brilliantly directed as well. I thought it was supreme film, television drama making, and gripping from start to finish.
It was so well done because it never pushed anything too far. It didn't over dramatize a single second. Exactly. It let the story tell itself, and it was quite chilling because it felt real.
Yes, exactly. So that was the one that I think that resonated for me the most of all. Graham, let's have your five, if we may. Your TV shows.
Number five, a joint one, Succession, which I didn't watch on whatever streaming service. I watched it
HBO
on TV on DVD. Succession, starring Brian Cox as the media mogul in New York, is absolutely amazing. It's written as well by a Brit, Jesse Armstrong, obviously. And it was the final series. I think it was the fourth and final series. Was it the third? I can't remember now. And it was superb. Guilt, Scottish drama, a crime drama set in Edinburgh. There's a lot of crime dramas now. Written by Neil Forsyth. Guilt was just absolutely brilliant. Sort of like Tarantino does Edinburgh. Number four, Blue Lights, which we've already talked about, which is brilliant. Yeah. Number three was underrated. It was an ITVX first, A Spy Amongst Friends. And it starred...
yes.
It was based on the Ben McIntyre book about the super spy, Kim Philby. Yes. And it's set in 1963, starring Guy Pearce and Damian Lewis. And it was as slow burning as the last version of Tinker. It was just as good as Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. And the performances were so nuanced from start to finish. It's just a glorious piece. Great writing. And it was so deeply sad. It was a fantastic series, which didn't get quite as much praise as it should have done. Number two, Shane Meadows' Gallows Pole. Shane Meadows.
Yeah.
Because it combined real history with a sort of agitprop drama aspect to it and a bit of sort of psychedelic horror. And it all wrapped up in a big ball of like right in your face, 18th century historical drama with great acting.
Which channel, Graham? And which channel was that?
That was BBC Two.
Oh, right. And who were the protagonists in that?
Oh, I can't remember. It was all a great British cast, all very good acting, and A lot of
So
the music was
was
by
Paddy
the
Considine
Swedish
in it?
band.
His obligatory Considine
Well, no,
performances?
they didn't go for big stars. They
Ah,
went for
okay.
good character actors. It was very Yorkshire,
Yes.
and also had music by Goat, the great psych rock Swedish band. It was
Yes.
very good. In
Yeah.
number one's another crime drama, this time based on real life.
Yeah.
Again, written by Neil Forsyth, the great Scottish writer of
Mm.
Guild. And the Guild was about the Brinksmat robbery in London in the early 80s. And it was set obviously in the early 80s. So, a
Yeah.
lot of great nostalgia. And it had a great cast of Hugh Bonneville playing a determined policeman
Yes.
in a fantastic performance by Donnie Cooper as the lawyer who gets involved with the Brinksmat robbery. And Donnie
Yes.
Cooper's a huge actor as well, always good. And he's the beating heart of this absolutely flawless. It managed to make crime it made criminals look terrible, but at the same time had a certain glamour to it. And it was totally based on reality, but at the same time was hugely entertaining. And it was historically accurate, but it was also just watchable. It was just absolutely flawless. Great,
Mm.
great piece of retelling of history.
That's one that I'm going to have to look. I'm going to have to do on iPlayer because I watched only part of the first episode.
The
I didn't
goal
get
was
into the. I didn't
great.
get into the rhythm of it at all. It sounds like I misjudged it completely, and it could well be one to sort of watch catch up on in the quiet time I've got ahead before reviewing season starts up again. So I
Yeah,
definitely that sounds what
I'm surprised, Charles. We didn't go for Cocaine Bears Film of the Year. It's quite a surprise.
I did love the trailer for that. I did think the trailer for that was one of the trailers of the year, but definitely
it's
not.
certainly the film title of the year. It's a great title for a film.
Absolutely. Now we've got a chance here for a second interruption, if you would, Graham.
Should I interrupt or not? Oh, good news about the Edinburgh National Film Festival and the Filmhouse, because it looked bad and it was going to go and it could end.
Yes.
And it's just clean on with the fingertips. Well, they've got a new chair, Andrew MacDonald, the great Scottish film producer. They've also got a new director of the Edinburgh National Film Festival who will be taking over for next year's festival. And it's Paul Reid, who was formerly head of acquisitions at Picture House, the chain that owns the Hyde Park in Leeds, and Cameo in Edinburgh, and a whole host of
City Screen in York. Yeah. Yeah.
He's also been a program advisor to the BFI's London Film Festival. And he's moving from London so he can do the job properly. So with Paul Reid involved with the Edinburgh National Film Festival, you've got to think that next year could be a great return.
Well, we look forward as ever to heading up there in the summer months, and I think that we've covered in depth what the experience has been this year for a film festival under threat and a location under threat, and we both had an instinct that this was too precious a film festival to not somehow manage to survive, and it was a tentative return this summer. I think we would both agree on that. Maybe this is now going to give it, hopefully, the more momentum and secure its future, because it's still, and it is. I hate the word iconic in many ways, but this is a film festival that within British film culture has been so significant for so long that it would be wrong for it to be removed from the landscape.
I agree, Charles. It's had some bad times, mostly in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's peak times, and a lot of the last 70 years have been peak times for Edinburgh Film Festival. It's wiped the floor with London Film Festival and most of the world major festivals in terms of the quality of ideas, the quality of guests and visitors, and the natural atmosphere of it's not judgmental, it's not pecking, it's open to all genuine film fans.
So we look forward to heading back north to Scotland in the year ahead. Now, Graham, we've got a little opportunity maybe just to reflect on a few other that we've enjoyed. Obviously, I probably theatre more than anything else that I review, and I'm going to just restrict, as we just said, just pick out. I could pick out many numbers of productions that I've seen, but I wanted to. I think we were restricting ourselves maybe to me picking just the play of the year that I enjoyed the most, and it is being nominated for awards. Shakespeare look out for him. He's got talent.
Shakespeare. That was a Smith song. Was he something to do with the Smiths?
Well, no, you're mistaking for Shakespeare's sister. And
well, it's an easy mistake to make.
So this is Comedy of Errors, but it's not as Comedy of Errors as you know it. The being or less. It is
Ah,
more than, and it's
mm.
less than. So it's less than the original in the terms of what they've done to it. But actually, I think that makes it much more than Comedy of Errors because I mean, it's not a generalization, but more often than not, I've found Shakespeare's comedies to not live up to the word comedy. And when they do, it's utterly joyful. Now, what happened here? This is a Stephen Joseph Theatre and Shakespeare North Playhouse production.
What,
And
Scarborough?
and I saw it in Scarborough at the Stephen Joseph Theatre, with Nick Lane combining with Elizabeth Godber, who is part of the Godber family. Elizabeth, who also did Dorothy McHale, who was a silent movie star from Hull, who made it big in America, and has just done also Save Christmas to, the Pocklington Arts. But Elizabeth and Nick, they wrote basically. I don't think it's as simple as saying yes. He wrote the female parts, he wrote the male parts, but to some extent, that is kind of how the writing partnership worked. And what they also did is that they gave a musical element of guilty pleasures 1980s cheesy classics,
That's a good
and which they
idea.
kept bursting into song, and it
Yeah,
worked
yeah.
wonderfully because of that. I
Mm.
don't give
Sounds
many
good.
5-star reviews, not because I'm the miserable sod that I've already referred to. I just think if you're looking for gold standard, you can't keep having gold standard. You had to. So when you do,
Well, that's
and I
your
actually think
mojo and uncut
recommendations there,
reviews.
we see too
Yeah.
many 5 stars being thrown about. So this was though an absolutely a 5-star production. Wonderful performances. Loved the music in it, which was all being played on stage as well, which is part of the joy of it. And it made Shakespeare as funny as I have ever seen Shakespeare, and that is not often the case. Utterly joyful. It's now being nominated for prizes, and rightly so.
I,
And someone else picked up on it and did this
yeah.
elsewhere. It was one of those ones that I think it should be done elsewhere.
That's good. I saw a play this year which I also thought was good, which is all Shakespeare. It was the Imitating the Dog version.
That was a
Harrogate
Harrogate.
Theatre.
That was a Harrogate Theatre.
Mm.
That wasn't. I mean, that was a remarkable in its own way. To basically just concentrate on the two lead characters and
What I
to have
like
close
was
focus
production.
on them all the time, like in films.
It was so immersive and cinematic. And
Yes,
I'm going to use this word again. It was Tarantino-esque. And I
it
think the
was.
amazing thing is that you can use the word Tarantino over and over again in comparisons, even though his
Yes.
first film was 1992.
Mm.
So that shows you how great Tarantino is. He can just throw his name around like a verb and
I like in
everything.
that
So,
as well that they were really young as a couple. This was a couple who
mm,
was and their inexperience explained their actions as much as anything. This was whereas by contrast, when the version of Macbeth was done later in the year, the opera version done
mm,
in York. There you had two, and I don't use the word veteran rudely, but two very experienced actors playing
mm.
Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. So very, very contrasting. But I did think it was essential to imitating the dog's production. And that's a
Yeah,
good call, actually. Again, look out for Imitating the Dog next year. Going to be doing
yeah,
Frankenstein next year at Leeds
that'll be
Playhouse.
good.
Always worth seeing. Now, when it
I
comes to a
think
gig of the year, Graham,
yeah, I don't think we've ever
um,
topped so quickly as this. It's great. We're really on a roll.
we are. So, gig of the year. Now, it could have been, okay, looking outdoors, the wettest gig of the year was Pulp, but it was great to see Jarvis on stage again, Jarvis Cocker. So, just to remind you what a wonderful frontman he is and the art of the frontman, which he absolutely personifies. He separates him from others. There's something about Jarvis that star. It's proper star, and you don't know when you see that, reminded of it. It's a lovely to be back in action with him. So that was one of my
But
favourites
Jarvis
of
is
the
a
year.
legend. He's a legend. Yeah, my
Absolutely.
gig of the year. Yeah, my gig of the year
Go
was
on, Graham,
Hamish
your
Hawk.
gig of the year.
Hamish Hawk at the Broodnell Social Club in Leeds
Yes,
about March time. This rising
because
star. He's entertaining. He's
yeah,
interesting. He's intelligent, and he's always melodic, always poppy. He's a great communicator. He's great on stage. He loves the crowds. He's got a bit of style. He's unusual. He's slightly eccentric. Hamish Hawk
yeah.
is great. If he
Mm.
only had some sort of like modern break beats or some modern pop production, things about him may be huge, but he is a bit in sound terms a little bit sort of 80s, early 90s with a little bit of indie guitar chucked in. Otherwise, I think he'd be massive. He's Hamish Hawk is bloody brilliant.
Yeah. So my indoor gig of the year, and you might not be surprised at this, Graham. I actually found the orchestral album by James not
James.
Well, the album I didn't think was as good. The concert was extraordinary. So this was with arrangements by Joe Dudell, choir and orchestra, and James, who are big in number these days anyway as a band. It was a remarkable experience, that concert. And, Tim was nursing a damaged arm, which was it's only a minor detail. It didn't really hinder the performance. But those are new under the experience of having strings added, and in particular having the choir added.
Before this edition ends, let's ask a question, Charles.
Yeah.
If James were to orchestrate a play by Alan Ayckbourn, would it be your greatest ever artistic moment?
No, that is just a cheap slur at my extent.
You've been listening to the podcast Two Big Egos in a Small Car. Your hosts were Graham Chalmers and Charles Hutchinson. This was a Baltic Sub production.